STEM fans, are you ready? Let's hear it for the world-class NASA STEM Stars team. From NASA centers across the country, we present Michelle Jones.
Welcome, NASA STEM fans. I'm your host, Deb Baggett, and today on our show we have a special guest, the Communications Director at NASA Goddard Space Flight Center. I have the absolute honor of introducing Michelle Jones. Michelle, we're so pleased to have you with us today.
Thank you, Debbie. I'm excited to be here as well.
Well, Michelle, our time goes quickly here, so let's just jump in and get right started to everything. So tell us a little bit about yourself, where are you from, and what was it like growing up?
Sure. So I was actually born and raised in the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area. I've been here all my life. A lot of my time was spent in Landover, Maryland. Palmer Park was the community in which I grew up in. I have two older sisters who have been a great part of my life and things that I have been able to accomplish. My older sister actually was raised in North Carolina, and I spent a lot of my time there, especially my summers and more formative years. So Roper, North Carolina is where I spent a lot of my time and was able to really kind of shape who I am as a result of that. I went to school again in the Maryland area, Parkdale High School, go Panthers. I enjoyed my high school journey. I was actually voted most outspoken in high school, just simply because, I never shied away from letting people know how I felt or what was on my mind. And so I think that in large part was due to me being the youngest with my family and just being comfortable in the skin that I was in. So really enjoyed my time being in high school at Parkdale. Was able to start working at NASA during my 12th grade year of high school. I worked part-time, so I would go to school part-time and then go to work. And so that kind of started my journey at NASA.
Well, that must have been an amazing opportunity, being able to start NASA at such an early age. And then with being the most outspoken, it's not a surprise that you ended up being in the field of communications.
Absolutely.
Did you know that's what you wanted to go to college for, even in high school?
Great question. I didn't know. I mean, I started out with kind of general studies just because I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. Then I went into computer science, and I learned immediately that that was not the field for me. And then because of me having the opportunity to work at NASA and really get to experience a lot of different things, I kind of zoned in on communication studies. So I went to school at the University of Maryland University College, which is now the University of Maryland Global Campus. And definitely, again, was a non-traditional route. I was working full-time and going to school part-time. So as you might imagine, it took me a little longer than the 4 years that it normally takes. But nonetheless, I finished with honors. I graduated magna cum laude, and so I'm very proud of that as well. But it definitely was not a traditional journey by any stretch of imagination. It was a lot of hard work, but we were able to get through it.
Yeah, that 4-year plan for college, I think if you talk to a lot of people, most people find that it doesn't happen in the real world because we have to work as we go through college. So
so true.
It sounds like a great plan, but it's just a plan. We do have a question that came through Let's go ahead and get this question answered real fast. Oh, we have a question from Chris, and he wants to know what high school courses helped the most into getting into your college career.
So I would say the English courses, of course, was a great help. I really, our cooperative office experience class that we took was also a great precursor to getting into the work field. I don't know if that particular class is offered now, but it was one in which we were able to just kind of get our skills as far as typing. At the time, we were using typewriters, computer skills, and just our overall communication skills. We were able to really focus on those in that particular class. So any class that stretches you and just helps you to be a better version of yourself is a class that will get you ready for your career.
I do remember that typing class. I loved it. I'm not sure if they still have that typing class.
Yeah.
It was electric typewriter. I'm not sure if they make those. I'm probably dating myself right now, but it was a fun class at the time. So anyways, it is right now time for our lightning round. We're kicking off a brand new segment called Lightning Round. And in our lightning round, I'll ask you rapid fire questions. You're going to give me one word responses. We're going to see how many questions you can answer in 30 seconds. And it's very competitive. I know we're going to have a leaderboard. I want to see your name on there. So, Michelle, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Time for NASA STEM Stars Lightning Round.
All right. Let's put 30 seconds on the clock. All right. Skydive or scuba dive?
Skydive.
Tennis shoes or flip-flops?
Flip-flops.
Are you a talker or texter?
Talker.
Introvert or extrovert?
Introvert.
Early bird or night owl?
Night owl.
Homework or yard work?
Homework.
Pen or pencil?
Pencil.
Comedy or horror?
Comedy.
Okay, we're going to let that slide. All right. Well, that's it for lightning round. Michelle, you did a great job. In fact, you answered 8 of the questions, and congratulations, you are now enshrined in our leaderboard.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, show Michelle some love and post some thumbs up emojis in our chat. And you are now tied, I believe, for first place. Make sure you come back and watch to make sure your name stays up there in our leaderboard.
All right.
I did notice the introvert, extrovert. You said introvert. I'm really surprised. I would have guessed extrovert, especially when you're talking about, being able to speak your mind, being the youngest, you had to speak up. I thought you were going to say extrovert. A
lot of people think that I am an extrovert. One of my best friends always challenges me when I say that I'm an introvert, but in all seriousness, every test that I've ever taken shows up with me being an introvert. I love my alone time. I'm not really comfortable in, social settings with people that I don't know. But I can get there. Of course, sometimes you just learn those skills and you get comfortable with it. And because I am so comfortable with it, so many people say, there's no way you're an introvert, but I really am. I'm an introvert.
That is very interesting. All right, well, let's get back to learning more about the communications director at NASA Goddard Space Flight Center. Earlier, you were talking about your internship. So from your internship to college, how did you get all the way to the communications director at NASA Goddard Space Flight Center? Tell us about your journey.
Yeah, it was definitely a journey. I started at NASA working in a very technical office. Didn't really understand what they were doing, why they were doing it, and I really wasn't engaged a lot with them. And maybe about 3 or 4 years in, a job came up at that time in the Office of Public Affairs, and it just seemed like something that I could really connect with. And so I applied for the job and got into the Office of Public Affairs, which is now the Office of Communications. And I kind of just grew from there. I was able to connect with a lot of really great people who took me under their wings and really showed me the lay of the land. Although I started out in the administrative field doing secretarial work, I was still able to support various events and so forth. And so it really was about getting out into the community, setting up events for NASA. One of the events that I was able to plan was a community day event that had 15,000 people in attendance, and just seeing people get so excited about the work that we do at NASA and being able to come behind the gates to see what we do always really jazzed me. So a lot of my time was spent in the public engagement arena. I served as a team lead and just worked with a really stellar group of people that were focused on public engagement. And during that time, I was also trying to get some leadership skills developed. And so I took a lot of training and was able to really lean into figuring out what my gift was. And it became clear to me that my gift was around creating that space for people to be, again, the best version of themselves. And so what better way to do that than to be in a leadership role? And so I just started seeking out opportunities to become a supervisor within the organization. And, you know, the stars aligned and I was selected as the deputy, and I served as the deputy for a few years, and then I moved on to being appointed as the chief director of communications. And so it was a journey. You know, there's definitely been some challenges associated with that journey. I'm sure we'll get to that later. But I think when you know what it is that you want to do and you stay focused, you can definitely make those dreams come true.
That's definitely a great point. When you know what your dream is, stay focused. We do have a question here. There's two, but one is one of the same questions that I have, so I'm going to save that one for a little bit later. Another one is, how does the communication director make culturally appropriate, relevant communication for the diverse population that make up their audience?
Wow, great question. You know, I work with a great team of individuals that really keep that into the forefront of everything that we do. And we don't always get it right, but it is always at the forefront of our minds. And that really is just about knowing your audiences, knowing who you're trying to connect with, making sure that you're having those conversations that are important. Targeting non-traditional audiences. I know that it means something for people to be able to see someone that looks like them, especially our younger generation. And so trying to create those opportunities where we can actually focus in on that is extremely important to me. And because it's important to me, it's important to my organization. So it definitely is something that we keep in mind in everything that we do.
I think that was a great answer, and not necessarily somebody who looks like them, but also has the same experiences. And
Absolutely.
I know we try to hit that here too at NASA STEM Stars. Okay, so you have a very full schedule. So what does a typical day look like as the Chief of Communications?
So a typical day is all about meetings. It is always something going on within the Office of Communications. You start your day thinking that it's going to be one way, and then something happens and you have to kind of shift and focus on something different. So there's a lot of meetings throughout the day. Oftentimes I have to do speaking engagements where I'm welcoming people to the center or to a virtual engagement. So just a lot of interaction with various audiences. I would say for me, the most important audience is my team. I have, again, a awesome team of 60 plus people that work in my organization that are experts in their fields. And me being able to work with them and remove barriers so that they can do what they need to do is just extremely important to me, because I feel strongly that if you take care of your people will take care of you. And that has really shown to be true through my experience in communications as the director. I try to remove barriers. I try to make sure that they are taking care of themselves. I try to connect with them on a personal level, because that is so important. And it has paid off in dividends, I must say. I think that should be a focus for all of our leaders.
I think that was said perfectly. Like you said, if you take care of your people, it comes back and helps you. Absolutely. One question that came in from Rebecca, she says, Michelle, what has been your biggest challenge at NASA and how have you overcome it?
Whew. Great question. There have been several challenges. I think the biggest one is when I was really just newly starting in my career, trying to find my space, trying to find, how I can contribute. I think that because I am a minority, because I was younger, there was a lot of times where I just kind of shied away and I just kind of went into the background. And I think that obstacle was one that I really just had to overcome. I couldn't wait for people to invite me to the table. I had to just go to the table. And so that was a hard lesson. But I was thinking to myself, if I stand here and I wait for someone to invite me to be a part of whatever that big thing is, I may not ever get the opportunity to be a part of it. So why not just lean into it and create my own space? And so that was an obstacle that I've had to overcome. Another obstacle was when I was working in the administrative field. It always felt as if that particular field was not respected, that my space was not respected. And so just trying to make sure that people understood that no matter what your job is, you have something to create, you have something to contribute. And making sure that they see your worth. So just really just being able to communicate that when something wasn't right, I was able to find my voice and let people know how I was feeling. And it wasn't always comfortable, but it was something that was important to do if I wanted to make sure that I was able to grow in the positions that I've had.
That must have taken a lot of courage, especially being an introvert, when you had to just make your own space. So, especially don't be afraid if somebody's going to say no or not invite you.
Absolutely. Don't shy away from those opportunities, even if it is a no or it's not exactly what you would like. Just being able to still stay the course and keep doing what you need to do to represent yourself well.
Yeah, absolutely. We have another question that came in. Has the pandemic impacted your ability to conduct meetings, and what technology and strategies have you deployed to overcome that obstacle?
So the pandemic has definitely changed the way we do things. We do a lot of virtual engagements now. We use various platforms such as Microsoft Teams to be able to conduct various engagements. And that's been working well. As far as being able to connect with my employees, we really got creative. I actually tasked one of my employees to be our social engagement lead. And so she was coming up with very creative ways where we could still stay in touch with one another, because we were missing that, physical being able to be in each other's presence. And so we were trying to compensate for that in the beginning. And so we did a lot of fun things. We did a scavenger hunt, a virtual scavenger hunt. We played various games, bingo and Price is Right. And we also just had time for conversations. I think that conversations are so extremely important. With me being in the communications field, I always say that everyone has a story. story. And so creating a space for people to be able to share their stories and to really get off of their chest whatever it is that may be they're holding as a result of the pandemic. We made a lot of space for that as well. In addition to being the chief of communications, I'm also a certified coach and a trained dialogue facilitator. So I love being able to hear people's stories and to share my story. And so we've done a lot of that as a result of the posture that we're currently in.
The pandemic has definitely made us be more creative in our communication, and the technology now has kind of made the world a little smaller, so to say.
Absolutely.
With communication, what type of career opportunities are available for our STEM fans?
Oh, goodness. There are so many different opportunities that are available within the field of communications. You have science writers, you have general writers, you have animators, you have social media gurus, you have administrative opportunities. You have audio podcast opportunities, visualizations, public engagement, just working various events and planning things. So the sky is really the limit when it comes to communications, because there's so many different opportunities to be able to contribute in the way that you feel most comfortable doing it. I have some employees who have a science background, they're science communicators. And then I have others who have a general background and they're writers and they work on our websites and, they do our social media. And so there's just so many different opportunities. My advice would be to just do your research and see if communications is something that you are really thinking about pursuing. Do your research to figure out what opportunities there are, because there are many. There are many opportunities in communications.
We have a question that came in from Rebecca. She says, you seem to bring a lot of courage to your work. What do you draw on when you need to find the courage to be a leader during difficult situations?
Very, very good question.
Right.
There's a lot that I draw on. First is my faith. I definitely rely heavily on my faith to get me through various challenges and difficult times. As I mentioned, I have two older sisters who I lean on often just to kind of get their perspectives about various things. We're very close, and so there's nothing that I can't talk to them about, and they both will give me that sound advice. Having a mentor is so important. Oftentimes it's hard to figure out exactly how you should navigate various situations, and being able to talk to someone to get their perspective is also an important practice. I mentioned that I'm a coach, so I also have a coach. And being able to have those conversations with my coach is another area in which has really served me well. The point is to have your support system. Whoever that may be, get your team together so that when you do have those challenging times, you can really rely on them to help you get through whatever it is that you're going through, because challenging times will come. And so the question is, will you survive it? And if you have the right people in your corner and you're making sure to listen to the advice that they're giving you, you'll be okay. You'll be able to navigate it just fine.
That is some definitely great advice. Leslie asks, she says, you lead with compassion and care deeply for your employees. How do you develop yourself into this type of leader?
Great question. So I've taken a lot of leadership classes. And so the main thing is being willing to lean into developing yourself as a leader. Sometimes, we come to the table thinking that we have everything that we need. And the reality is oftentimes we don't. And so we need to do the work. We need to do that work. And I was just committed to being able to do that work. And that took me hearing some feedback earlier on that wasn't very easy for me to swallow or digest. I heard things from, you're not approachable, to you seem like you have a chip on your shoulder, and those things stung. But I think as a result of being open to hearing that kind of feedback, I was able to take it and say, that's not who I am. I want to be able to show up and make connections, and to let people know that I care about them. I care about their well-being. I don't just care about the work. And so in order to be able to make sure that my focus is where I needed it to be, I made sure that I took the time to make those connections with people. Not just, hey, how you doing? How are you doing? How was your weekend? But really connecting with them in an authentic way. And I think that, again, that has served me extremely well. I have a great group of individuals that work alongside of me, and it's just been an honor to be able to lead them. They make my job easy. So, I give it all back to the team. They know my expectations. Some of the mottos that they are so used to me saying within the organization is to give people the benefit of the doubt and to assume positive intent. And that's for me too. I definitely make sure that, I provide people with the grace that I want them to provide to me. And so, just kind of being the leader that I would want to lead me has really helped me to cultivate that kind of culture.
You have answered these questions in such an amazing way, and have given great advice. It has come to that time. Are there encouraging words that you would like to get, your words that you would like to give our STEM fans that aren't prompted by questions?
Absolutely. Just lean into the uncomfortableness. Never sell yourself short. Whatever it is that you want to do, you can do it, especially if you have that support system, you have that drive, and you have that passion to do it. Remember that you have a right to be at the table just like anyone else. And most of all, be your own best advocate. Don't wait for people to talk highly of you. Talk highly of yourself. Make those connections that you need to make. It's great if by chance people decide to tell your story and to talk about all of your contributions. But if not, do it yourself. There's some quotes that I just want to kind of leave with. One is from Maya Angelou that I really, really try to keep in the forefront of my mind. And it's, people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. And I try to remember that in everything that I do. Another quote that really resonates with me is, expect nothing, appreciate everything. Expect nothing, appreciate everything. And that just really means, don't go in with such high expectations. Just appreciate the moment that is being presented to you. And sometimes that helps out, a lot. And I think I have one last quote that I shared. Quotes are a big thing for me. I love reading and I love quotes. And it's, if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at will change. So that's the coach in me coming out, just about shifting our perspective and choosing to be positive in everything that we do.
Well, Michelle, I'm so glad that you took time out of your super busy schedule to come onto NASA STEM Stars and share your experiences with us. It is that time when I have to challenge our NASA STEM fans to a mission. And their mission today is the activity Sound on a String from our Astronaut Yet's Guide. You'll demonstrate how sound waves travel through different material. It's a fun activity, and parents, if you're watching, it's a good activity you can do with some younger kids. The link is put in the chat. And share what you've learned on hashtag NextGenSTEM. And tune in next week for some groundbreaking research with Doug Hoffman, August 11th at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. And we will see you next week. Thank you, STEM fans, for tuning in. Have a great day. And again, Michelle, thank you so much for being here with us.